Hi, this is Catherine from Gauge Dye Works. We're going to chat today about designing socks, and specifically if you want the pattern to continue nicely along the front of the sock without being interrupted by the heel when you've got self-striping or self-patterning yarn. I'm just going to look distracted here while I add Andrea. So specifically today, we are going to chat about...
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, good. You have socks too.
I got socks too.
Excellent. Write that down. Okay. Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm excited to talk about socks today. Socks and colors.
Yes. So I said really briefly, we're talking about, well, maybe I'll just, and then you probably got your sample there. When you're, because, so this was a sock we did for our summer yarn club, the COVID year of the yarn club.
2020. I was just looking at the pattern. So yeah, 2020.
And the thing that's always the case when you're working with a self-striping or self-patterning yarn is if you want the front to look nice and smooth, you have to figure out, there's all this extra yarn, and so sometimes that means there'll be a real disconnect right here. Oh, I've been dying for this pattern yarn since I saw it. Thank you, Anna. I should say we were chatting about this today. This is not in the shop right now, which is not great promotion on our part, but you just got to do what you got to do. So, but I will be putting some of this back in the shop in the next month or so, hopefully, when I'm doing a little bit of catch-up dyeing right now, and then we'll have it back in the shop. So one of the things we do for our club is try to make things like this not be your problem, it's our problem, so that you just have to knit. So that's kind of what we're talking about today, is the different ways you can think about continuity on the front and then figure out what to do on the back.
I brought my sun and moon sock today too to talk about the second way that we decided to solve that problem. So should I just go ahead and talk about how we solved the problem for this one?
Yes, jump right in.
Yeah, so when we design our club patterns together and our club yarns together, we always have the yarn, everything you need to make this sock is all in one skein. Now for this sock, you did have to divide up your ball into a couple of skeins for the sock part, and then the smaller skeins for the color work, the background colors. But for the heel, the way that we manage that on this, you can see that the gradient is actually pretty dramatic. It changes, from this magenta through purple to blue, all the way to green. Oh, there's a cat. A cat has entered the chat.
I might have to step away and put the cats in the basement because I have yarn in front of me.
Oh,
likes to be in charge of yarn.
Yeah,
anyway,
I can imagine.
Sorry, continue.
Just fine. Cats always should be interrupting. So for this sock, the way that we managed the heel to be exactly the same as the front without as the yarn right above it without messing up the gradient was that we actually have the other end of the yarn ball was this same dark purple. So we arranged it so that the dark purple would be just long enough and that there was more of the dark purple at the other end of the ball, so that you could take the other end of the ball, knit your heel flap, trim that, and then just continue knitting so that this gradient was not interrupted at all, and everything you need for the sock was right there in the skein. So that was the first method that we used, that was the method for this sock. And the reason that we decided to have using a different yarn, like using yarn from the other end of the ball for the heel flap, was because this gradient is pretty dramatic. Like, it changes quite a lot pretty quickly. So it was important that we actually have some extra yarn, because for every size we wanted it to be able to just like make sure that it matched exactly.
Right. I think that's important to mention. If it was just going to be for the exact sock you're holding there, then we could just make sure it's all in the yarn, just add that extra color. But people have different size feet, and also people have just different preferences. Someone might want to make that longer or shorter, a taller cuff or whatever. So we also want to make sure people have that flexibility to make socks that like fit them or that they're going to like. Yes.
Exactly. And that's one of the conundrums that we always manage when we're designing together, is that there are different sizes. So we have to think about, like, how does this not just work in one size, but how does this work in multiple sizes so that lots of knitters can have success with their project? So that's, it looks maybe a little bit simple, but it's actually quite a complicated process to make sure that we have mathematically the exact right amount of yarn and in the right proportions for all the sizes.
And so Andrea was saying everything is in the one ball of yarn. So in this case, what that meant is there's the, it's kind of hard to see, but there's one gradient for one sock on one side, another gradient for the other sock on the other side, and then in the middle, the stranded color work you see at the cuff and at the toe, you have to do that as stranded color work. That doesn't automatically happen. Oh, and there it is. This is a picture of this ball, but wound into 4 kind of mini skeins.
So that's what you would start with if you were knitting. You would have one sock is each for the big skeins or big balls, and then the color work for both socks comes from the smaller ones. And so that's, those kinds of details are included in the patterns to show you exactly what to do, so you don't have to like try and figure it out or guess.
Yeah.
So should we talk about Sun and Moon a little bit? This was an alternate, or the previous year's sock. And this one I have worn the heck out of. It is actually in my mending pile because it has been one of my favorite pairs of socks. But this was from 2019, and we had a gradient and some color work. So a kind of similar idea, but this gradient is quite a bit more gentle. It's not so dramatic as the one from Sun and Moon, or from Wildflower Meadow. So in order to create this heel that matches the color, we were able to just add extra of this sort of heel color into the skein. So there was plenty that would make the gradient look roughly the same for all the sizes, and you didn't have to add in any additional yarn. So that was kind of the ideal, and it worked really well for this very gentle gradient. And then the next year when we went to try a different kind of a gradient that was a little more dramatic, we had to come up with a different solution for that heel. So that's just about how we work on these things, is we come up with these design challenges in order to use the self-striping yarn to its best effect. And then we brainstorm and we figure out different options of ways that we could address those design challenges. And each year we kind of come up with different solutions. So we never have, every year there's always some kind of new problem, which is very fun. I think that's one of the reasons that we keep coming back to doing these projects together, because it's kind of unlike any other thing. It's like I design with yarn all the time, with other people's yarn, but I have to work within these constructs of like, it's this color, or it's going to change in this way. But when we work together, I'm able to say like, oh, I wish that it changed a little faster, and then I actually get my wish.
Right. Yeah.
Or Catherine can be like, oh, I wish that the cuff was a little longer, or I wish that the stripes were a little wider, or things like that. And then I can accommodate those kinds of wishes. So it's very much a team effort when we make these designs.
Yeah. And I should just say too, like the 2 examples we're showing today are with a smooth gradient. But this is also, if you're doing just like regular self-striping, this also comes up. And we have all sorts of solutions to that too, that usually include something similar to this, where the heel is from a different section of the yarn, so that there's no interruption on the stripes in the front.
Exactly, because no matter what kind of heel you end up using, if you continue on with the striped yarn, you're going to get different width of stripes than you do for the other rest of the sock. And so usually we've come up with solutions that are things like just have a solid heel and then the striping at the front of the sock can be uninterrupted, things like that. But we try and be clever so that you can look clever too. And this year's club will have a sock. That will be one of our patterns. It's going to include a sock. So we are almost finished with our club patterns. We're about to do the photo shoot, which I'm very excited about. And we are going to open club signups on May 22nd for this year. So these were previous year's clubs. These guys to give you an idea of what kinds of things we do. This year's will be new. It will be a mystery. And it will be exclusive to the club for 1 year. So if you want in on this year's club, that's on May 22nd to sign up for that.
Yeah. And I think those are both good examples too of, they're meant to be like the club is meant to be summer projects. And we give you a general idea of what it's going to be, like what type of project and a hint of the colors. But we're not going to make it, like Andrea could make the most complicated cables in the world, but we're not going to like surprise you with the most complicated cables in the world, because that might not be fun. So we try to think of these projects as like, what would be nice to like throw in your bag when you're packing for vacation. So there's usually, like in these socks, there is a teeny bit of color work, but it's, I don't know how many rows, like 10 rows of color work. And on the socks, it was probably only like 8 rows of color work. So we try to have something a little spicy, but only just like a hint of spice.
Yeah.
So that they are
like a sweet little pattern or something like that, so that they're really approachable. The patterns are approachable for most knitters. They might introduce something a little new to you, but it's generally supposed to be like, they're very, very engaging, because watching the colors change, it is very hard to stop knitting from my experience. It's very compelling to see what's going to happen next. So they're very fun in that way, but we don't, for our club projects, we aren't going to be introducing like super advanced projects. I did that 1 year. We did a collaboration that was not a secret, that I made a shawl for my sister's wedding called a garden wedding. That was like everything, cables, lace, color work, the whole thing. But we would never do that to you without warning you first. So that's why we didn't make that one a surprise, because it was a little bit extra.
Yes, it was gorgeous, but even I think Andrea, when you did the color work but on the like pearl side, and you were like, this might be a bit much.
I thought it was a lot, but it was for a special occasion.
And the overall effect was stunning, but we weren't gonna like surprise.
Yeah, exactly. So you can count on, if you join our club, you can count on 3 projects that will have like one little spicy element or an interesting stitch pattern, but that will be straightforward enough that you will want to knit them in your hammock or take them on vacation. And they're each 1 skein projects. So you can just put it in your little project bag and have a lot of fun, and know that your whole summer will be filled with little projects that are going to be really beautiful and exciting to knit.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's that's what we had to share today.
Yeah.
But we'll be back and we'll do it again next week.
Yeah.
And chat about a different design.
And if you want to see last week's where we talked about shawl design, that one is available on my blog at andrearangel.com and on our Instagram. But if you wanted to watch it where you can like pause and move forward and see the closed captions and everything, I put it on YouTube so that you can watch it on my blog. So yeah, that is also available if you're interested in design discussions for how we work together. So
yeah. Well, right before I guess we can thank people now. So thank you for joining us. Right before we go, just for my own fun, can we try to can you hold up the bottom of the sock and make it seem like it joins up to my sock?
Oh, wait, I gotta go back.
Sorry, I'll stop moving.
Okay, you stop moving. And then, no, I'm ruining it. There we go. Nope. Heel.
Oh, this is harder than I was expecting it to be.
Close.
I forgot that there's 3 dimensions. I thought this was going to be easier.
It's close. That's pretty fun.
There we go. So look at us.
Oh yeah. And I love to see, like, I have worn these socks so much. Like, after the first year, I just wear them. I put them in my wardrobe because I love knitted socks, and they're still going strong many years later.
Great.
Okay.
Right.
Well, we will
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. And thanks for joining us. And we hope that you will join our club.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you next week, Andrea.
Bye.
Bye.